this is Ann with Fiber Designs by Ann, and I'm here with another project for Visions Art Museum. This is one of those make do with what's around you kind of projects. And today we're going to do coils. I'm going to make coils that are quilled, and you may know about quilling. Usually it's done with paper and tulle, but I do it with fabric. You can use a quilling tool that you purchase, but if you don't have one of those, just happen not have one of those around, you can use a paper clip or a toothpick. You'll also need a batik fabric. Makes really nice. A fine fabric makes really good fabric for this. I do treat my fabric with a product called Material Magic, which makes it a little more like paper. But you don't have to do that. I've certainly made these coils with fabric that's just regular fabric. A batik is nice because it's finely woven and it makes a good coil. So you'll need some kind of fabric, and we're going to make them in bottle caps. So this is a beer bottle cap, but a soda bottle cap, some kind of a metal cap makes a nice one because of the little rough edge, the little sort of scalloped edge. You can use any kind of a little cap though. And I have some here that are magnets. If you have magnets around, or if you're recycling magnets that you don't need on the refrigerator anymore, you can use the backs of those. And then I'm going to use these and make a little card. This one's not glued on yet. A little greeting card with them. There's lots of things you can do with them. And just the coils alone, I've made all kind of projects, including art quilts with the coils. You can make them in a lot of different sizes. The different sizes happen with the different length of the strip. If I make a 1-inch strip, then I can make these little tiny, like almost like seed bead coils. The strips I'll be using today are about 9.5 or 10 inches to make the outside of the flowers, of the little petals. So you'll need some craft glue or some kind of tacky type glue. I do use a hot glue gun once in a while. I like to put the magnets onto the back or to glue them onto card. And this is purchase cardstock, but you can buy just cardstock and make it, fold it to your own cards. I like tweezers too, they're helpful. So you'll cut your strips, and with fabric, it doesn't matter if the strips aren't exactly straight. I love it because if you can tell, let's see, I think you can kind of tell in this one, the clothes were really ugly, so I painted them with a bronzy kind of paint, and then I used a bluer, sort of like, so there's like a patina kind of on it. But you can tell the different raised areas. If they were paper strips and they were perfect, they wouldn't have this dimension raised. So that's why I like to use fabric. Gives a lot more texture to them. Even if they start to unravel a little bit, I like that. So the first thing we'll do is cut our strips, and I've used a paper cutter to cut these in the past. I use a rotary cutter. You can do it with scissors. Just make sure it's around about 1/8 of an inch. You can make them thicker if you like too, but for this little project, I like to have them about 1/8 of an inch. So as I said, they're about 9.5 or 10 inches long to make this size little coil. And I'll show you with the paper clip. With the paper clip, you just, see if you can see that, you just open a paper clip, a small paper clip up, and bend it so that 2 ends are close to the same on the top. And I do use some tape to hold it together, and then you have a little handhold, and you're going to take your strip. Let's see, I think that'll show, maybe a green will show better, maybe, we'll see. And you stick it in between the little prongs, and this is just the way the tool is. It has a little slit in the middle. It's just a little tighter slit. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And see if we can get our focus together. And you just put that end in and start wrapping it around so that it starts to hold itself in. And if it slides out like it just did, you might go down to where it's a little tighter. And just start holding it loosely in the beginning. And I find it easiest to turn it away from myself. You can also just wrap it like this. You won't get as straight a coil, so it might fall apart when you're taking it off. And you can kind of just true this up. It's certainly easier with the proper tool, but this works pretty well. So I just go all the way around, and I can neaten that up if I need to, which I will need to do. Then when I get to the end, well, you want to make sure your glue is open and on its way out. When I get to the end, if it's not kind of frayed, I like to fray it out a little bit because that gives a nicer finish to the edge, a little smoother finish. So then I'll take my glue and I'll push it on the edge, the end rather, and just kind of saturate that end. And then I'll bring it onto itself and just pat it around. And then I'm going to very slowly, you want to make sure it stays coiled, like I didn't wait long enough so it's coming undone. You want to really, you can just hold it until it's really glued. I'm just trying to rush this because they're showing you here so you can get to it. And then you're going to slide it off. Just kind of slowly so that it stays in a nice coil. And then set this down on something that it's not going to glue to. So I have a little piece of parchment over here, so I'll set it down there. And then that's the same technique I'm going to use on the others. With the toothpick, I just cut off the point, and then I took a knife, I think I used an X-Acto knife, and just slit the toothpick. And they want to just split all the way because it's wood and it's got a grain. So I just put tape on it to hold it in place. And then you can use something to open it a little. I use my fingernail. And stick the fabric, of course, paper. If you have paper around, use paper. It would be easier to slide in there because it won't have the weave of the fabric. So there, when you get it in there, and again, just away from it, just hold it loosely in the beginning till it can start to hold itself on. And then just twirl that. You can cut your strips at, for a different kind of project, you can cut your strips at an angle and like a pie shape, a long skinny pie shape, and make beads. I've done that too. Again, just pat that end down so that it gets saturated and holds. And then when you're going to take it off, just push the center and hold that center. Wiggle it a little bit. And if it pulls the center out, you can just push it back. And it might, because it tightens that. The gap there gets tightened as you're pulling it around. And this one I can tell it's going to come out. And I think a paper clip is preferable to the toothpick. But then you can just push that center right back down in there. And it's perfectly great. So those are the two different ways. And if I'm using a regular coil tool, that's just the easiest, of course. Mine has some glue on it. It's a little bit dirty. And just slip it in there and coil them up. And it goes really, really fast. If you have all your strips ready and just can sit down and relax and do this, it's really fun, and you can make a lot of coils. Then I pull it, fray it out the edge a little bit, and see, you can see that my coils are not the same. They weren't cut straight, and I'm just perfectly fine with that. It's just makes them more interesting. And then just pet it down until it's holding and slide it off. And if it starts to come undone like it just did, just might need to apply a little more glue. And then just set that aside to dry and make some more. Now, when it comes to, I have some rings here. I'm not going to be using these, but just to tell you how I did them. They're big. You just twirl them on a marker. And then you can take the little tiny ones and put them inside to make a little flower all of its own. Okay, so when it comes to putting them in the caps, you gather up however many you need, depending on your size. It takes anywhere from, and how spaced you want them to be. I have these squeezed in pretty tight, and you can see they're not all the same size. I just love that. It just makes it more interesting. So you're going to take your glue, and you can use hot glue for this, but you have to be really fast. So I prefer just a regular tacky type glue. You could use E6000 type glue. And you just make sure the glue's all around, and you start dropping them in. That's why tweezers are, sorry, I'm off, there we go. Tweezers are so much better because you can get a hold of stuff, get a hold of these little babies. And these are not the best tweezers, but they work. So that tacky glue gives you time to move them around and squeeze them in. Sometimes you have to kind of squeeze them, and sometimes they go up on the edge, and that's all just fine. Uh-oh. There we go. There's another cute little flower. So I would take this, I'd let that dry, but I'm gonna just show you with the hot, oops, I got glue on there, hot glue gun. Well, you can put it on the spot. Just like that, makes a very cute little card. And as I said with the magnets, you just put some hot glue on the back and stick that on there like that. If you do make the coils and turn them into a project, I hope you'll take pictures and share them on Instagram and Facebook using hashtag MakeDo, VAM, and hashtag VAM Cap Flowers. This has been Ann. Thanks a lot for watching.